Excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros, which is the brand new name of what used to be called African Ascent International for the past 15 years, has developed or is in the process of developing a series of conversations, some of which will also involve performances with musicians at Berkley College of Music for the next 6 months or so. By way of realizing that particular goal, I have made the decision to invite a very promising young student at Berklee College of Music who is currently a brilliant student in my Africana philosophy course, which is the second course that he's taking with me. His name is Aiden Solomon, and I think it's only appropriate for me to ask him to introduce himself to you. Welcome to Excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros, Aiden Solomon.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor to be asked to be on this program with you. The guests that you have and the interviews that I've watched in the past of this show have been incredible and inspiring, and I was very flattered to be asked to do this. So thank you so much. I'm Aiden Solomons.
It's my honor and my pleasure to bring you to the program, Solomon. In fact, my studio manager, who is an extraordinary manager that I'm blessed to work with, was the one who suggested that African Ascent makes a major move to interview the youth, the young, promising artists, and of other vocations such as you. So it is by way of attempting to realize the extraordinary suggestion that he made that you are the first, I think, or rather second, because I began with Yara Shahidi, the well-known actress, and my ex-student at Harvard University, literally a genius, a voice of her generation. And you're the second one that I have chosen to continue this path of excellence. So at the expense of belaboring the point, why don't you introduce yourself even more in terms of your youth, where you grew up, who your parents are, when you began expressing an interest in what I think has turned out to be not merely a profession, but a vocation for you, from what I sense in my classes as you speak and as you think lovingly about music. So why don't we begin there? Don't be shy. Take your time and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Well, I'm from Los Angeles originally. And I lived there up until I moved away to college, to Berkeley. I started playing the saxophone in middle school. It wasn't even my first choice instrument, but it was one of my top choices, and I was placed to start playing the instrument. My instructor gave me the saxophone, and it became something that I just really enjoyed doing, playing it, and I decided I wanted to continue studying music in high school. I went to an performing arts high school, where I was able to study the history of Black American music, and the saxophone at a high level with incredible professors, and and that interest just grew. It became something that I I didn't really, I think, make conscious choices that this is what I was going to continue doing, pursuing music, but it just kind of I stuck with it, and it feels as though I would be making a big change in my life to continue to not continue to play music. It's become something that brings me great joy, and I'm, very lucky to get to make music with great friends and fellow students at Berkeley now, and that's brought me to have the privilege of being in your class at Berkeley. I've become interested in philosophy through your class and through some other learning that I've done, and that the combination of philosophy and music has been very interesting to me, and they're interests that I'm very excited to be able to continue throughout my life.
Do you come from a musical family, Aiden?
No, my dad has shown me a lot of music. I'm very grateful that he took time to always say that he needed to educate me on music that he was interested in. But he's not a musician himself, and neither is my mom. I'm the first musician in my family.
Mhm. How many siblings are there in the family?
I have two younger sisters.
Mhm.
One of them is in college now, just 2 years younger than me, and the other one is in middle school, so
Uh-huh.
quite a bit younger.
What did you grow up, Aiden? In which state?
In California, in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, I see. Now, let's talk about music. What is it like to be a musician? What is special about being a musician?
Mm.
It's a very competitive field. Many apply, but few are chosen, as the expression goes. And it really takes immense bravery and commitment to give your life as young as you are. And the numerous gifts that you have, which I sense in the class, I can imagine you to be a fantastic lawyer. You argue extremely well. I can imagine you to be a professor of philosophy. You think very deeply. I can imagine even to be a writer for magazines. You write well. You are a rather gifted guy. And here you are, stuck with music. Very dangerous because you may not make it.
I think that doing pursuing music as a career is definitely exclusive. Not many get the opportunity to make that the sole job that they do throughout their life.
Mhm.
But in general, music is not exclusive. I think that it's something that almost everyone engages with, and to some degree as a musician, whether you uh, try to sing and don't, or just appreciate music and listen to it. I think that music has an interesting uh, difference between other forms of art in that it's something that you kind of experience in duration. You Music can have a start and an end, and in between you're in a state of listening, and it's not of one that you necessarily go at your own pace. It's a pace that's dictated by the music you're listening to, and it's something that it's a language that isn't so descript that it narrows the ideas which are in it.
Mhm. Now, to repeat the same point, you have many, many talents, Aidan. But why did you settle on music? I'm just wondering why. As I said, law is in your territory. You could easily become one.
My mother's a lawyer.
Mm.
Um,
You
so
see, I didn't even know that, but I could
mm,
sense that you've been groomed to argue very precisely. You appreciate language. You know how to use words. And in your case, you would have been a particular kind of lawyer because you're not arrogant, you're not conceited, you're not blowing your horn from what I sense in class. You're rather reserved, you're very careful. But then when you begin developing an argument, well, kudos to mom, I think. She must have taught you very, very well. You can marshal an argument from the beginning to the end and win the case. So given that, and of course, law is very lucrative. It's guaranteed that you're going to make a good living. But one cannot with ease and rigor and with confidence say the same about music. Music is precarious. There could only be a one Coltrane, one Miles, one Michael Jackson, and so on. And here you are at the leading college for the study of contemporary music. Your professors are renowned. They are great. And yet, independent of that greatness, there are only an X number of musicians that they could confidently say will become celebrities. Of course, Berkeley does a wonderful job of diversifying musical talent such that you can go to therapy, you can go to business, you can go to performance, you can go to songwriting, magazine writing, and so on. We're quite good at that. So that is there. But in your case, I don't imagine you as a salesperson. You're too serious and too kind for that, I think. But anyway, why music? You have to convince me that you chose music for a compelling reason. Convince me. I'm not convinced yet.
I think that music compels me to feel emotions that I think that maybe I don't experience so readily all the time in my daily life and engaging uh, in other tasks. And I think that that's a process that I just enjoy taking part in. I think you mentioned that Berkeley trains musicians and only few will become celebrities. And while that's true, I think that that so many musicians are producing great quality music though. And I don't think that if your goal is not to be a celebrity, then pursuing music is quite a, I think, lucrative, not monetarily, but lucrative job in that you can create something, form something that came from your mind, that came from just ideas that you had to yourself that you're imagining, and bring them to become something that you can share with people in a way that moves people and is of great quality. And I think that I'm not motivated by becoming the a saxophonist to be known as well as John Coltrane. I could never. But I regardless want to make good music, and I want to spend my time making better music than I did last year, and continue to try to achieve some emotional responses that I've received from music and put that into something that I'm creating.
Okay. Now, another concern that I have, and I want you to help me to think through this empathetically, is the Berkeley scene.
Mm.
I see quite a bit at Berkeley. As one of my colleagues, whose name I won't give, he may be embarrassed. He once told me in the context of a conversation that there are types of students at Berkeley that he hesitates to work with. He describes them to be the types who are not hungry for music.
Mm.
What does that mean, Aiden? Hungry for music. Teodros, he would tell me, they are not hungry. He's supposed to be one of Berkeley's top brasses, a great composer. He said, when I decided to become a musician, it's only because I was so hungry to become one. I couldn't imagine my life outside of that particular way of framing it, that is, musically. Is your relationship with music, Aiden, that intense also? Or are you relaxed about your musicality? And
I
that's
think that
Mhm.
that I in some ways I am very hungry to pursue what to make my music new and different than it has been to myself, uh, to improve it. But in other ways, I think, and maybe from an outside view and from the view of your colleague who said that I might appear to be more lax, I think that I don't take a competitive um, relationship to music. I have no desire to be better than other people. Uh, I simply just want to make the music sound to me as good as I can. And I think that there's certainly value in being hungry to make sure that you can make a living off of music if you want to solely rely on music to support yourself as I do. But I find that you don't need the competitive nature to make good music. Uh, I think I don't see a reason for myself to try to be the best saxophone player. I will make the best music that I can with the saxophone.
Ah, okay. I think in one of the other classes that you took, we spent quite a bit of time, I recall, discussing this idea of perfection.
Mm.
Is it possible to be a perfect anything, most particularly perfect at playing the sax, for example? What is the matrix? What are we measuring playing the saxophone? Not just playing it, but playing it excellently. What are we measuring that content of excellence with? What is the matrix? How do you measure that? How do you know that A, namely you, is playing saxophone excellently, whether B, another saxophonist, might not be, or C, that still another one may not be playing it well at all.
Mm.
There are gradations that we're imposing on musicality. On what grounds? On what basis? What is it that must be satisfied in order for Aiden to be accepted as an excellent saxophonist? Let's say, for example, that someone like Coltrane is the model. I don't like the idea of modeling myself or imitation. I have written a whole book protesting against imitating and modeling any craft against and by. But people do. What are your thoughts about this idea of perfection? What is that?
Again, I think that perfection is something that can't be defined. Um, for myself, the way that I quantify or try to quantify how good I am at saxophone or how well I'm progressing is how easily I can use the saxophone as a tool to convey in my music what I want to achieve. Uh, and there's certainly many things that get in the way of that. Things like technique on the saxophone, tone. These things are huge, and if you don't have them together, it will impede your ability to be as musical as you want to be. You might have a situation where the music that you hear in your mind is leagues ahead of what you can achieve on the saxophone. And I think that what I'm trying to do is just to kind of bridge that gap. I think that the music I hear in my head will always be better than the music that comes out of my horn, but I'm trying to bring those things closer together and and not so much compare myself or any other saxophone player to one another in terms of what they can do on the horn, though there are definitely differences, and some players are just incredible for the amount of technique and the sound that they have. But I think that what really impresses me about players like Coltrane is the idea and the music that he conceptualized and used the saxophone to produce, not necessarily the saxophone playing in itself. And so I'm trying to use the saxophone and use my composing to create music that sounds as good as it does in my head.
Do you play any other instruments at all, Aiden, or is it the saxophone?
It's just saxophone. I use the piano to write music, but I don't perform on piano, just saxophone.
Mhm. And let me ask you a rather silly question, but I need to ask it. Grade yourself. Uh, what level are you in? Are you where you'd like to be, or are you on the path at this stage of your
I'm
life?
definitely on the path. Um, there are plenty of saxophone players. There are plenty of saxophone players at this school that are far better than I am. Uh, but I think that I'm decently good. Uh, I feel happy with my playing at the moment, but I've there's situations in which I don't feel happy with my playing. I'm also I think that I can make good music with the saxophone, and then there's situations that I find myself in that I'm very critical of my playing and don't want to listen back to what I've heard, what I play, because it can be painful. Um, and what I'm trying to do is just make my worst day better, my worst sound better.
Incredible. Now, as you know, because you're very sharp in language, the term far better is a comparative term,
True.
correct?
Yes.
What is it that you think makes other saxophone players far better than you? How are we using the notion of far betterness as a matrix? Because we are, linguistically at least, but I'm sure it could also be measured musically. I'm not a musician, although I was a vocalist in high school.
Mm.
My father, who did not think much about musicians, discouraged me, unlike your parents, although I don't know them. Kudos to them for encouraging you, investing in you, and they're going to get a return of this investment because I know you're brilliant.
Well, I think that for saxophone specifically, and this goes for I'm sure for any wind instrument and most any instrument, I think that the tone is the first marker of quality of a player is it's the sound. If you could play the most interesting lines and if you have a bad tone, then nobody wants to listen to it. But if you have a very good sound, um, you can play a single note and um, it just sounds great and people want to listen to it all day. I think that I'm very happy with where I'm at with my sound at the moment. Um, but I'm always trying to improve it. I think that my sound is a strong suit for me. And I think that when I compare myself to others, which I try not to, more of what I'm noticing in saxophone players that I see to be particularly great would be technical facility on the horn in terms of key work and also the language that they have under their belt, the amount of jazz and other music vocabulary that is comes from the tradition and clearly comes out in their playing and the I think that comes across in strong musical statements that is makes for a really good and impressive player.
And now, let me ask you a difficult question. If you don't feel comfortable, dodge it. If you don't, answer it. A lot of my students, some of whom are your friends at Berkeley, complain literally about these courses that they have to take at Berkeley.
Mm.
They think that the courses that they are taking are stifling their creativity, they like to say. They are killing their potential interest in music. through which they want to freely create themselves. And the courses are suppressing the creativity by framing it within a tradition, within standards that the students think their professors are imposing on them. Some of them even go to the extent that some of their professors feel threatened by their musicality because some think that the students are better than the professors on certain crafts. I hear this very often at Berkeley. It's a dangerous question that I'm asking you because I want you to be very happy at Berkeley. I want you to be very respectful of your professors. And I know, having you for the second time, how disciplined and how respectful you are as a person. But there is this phenomenon at Berkeley. Do you share these negative sentiments or are these just sentiments that may be getting voiced by students who do not have the patience to learn the rules before they decide to break them?
I think that in school you have an opportunity to take on as much information as you are open to. And and yes, we for school have to engage in a lot of projects that aren't necessarily the music that we would be writing outside of class. But for anyone frustrated with having to write an assignment, write music specific to assignment because it doesn't fit their artistic vision, I think that they can write whatever music they want outside of class. And the fact that they're in class does not impede that ability. And so all the disagreement that you might have with the music that we write for a course, you can express that in the music that you write outside of Berkeley. But I trying to take the classes that as much information as I'm able to gather, and not all of it's useful right now, but I'm trying to soak it up. And I do think that occasionally I've felt as though I've been in a class and I might have not thought it was the best use of my time to be doing whatever the assignment was. And that particularly comes that frustration can be heightened by the fact that Berkeley is expensive. And it can be frustrating to be doing something that you don't understand the result from. But I'm trying to keep an open mind through all of that as well. And my experience at Berkeley, I'm trying to take a wide array of classes that are not necessarily applicable to my immediate goals or my immediate compositions that I'm just find interesting, and I take a great deal of joy in just learning new information. And so to somebody who's um, dealing with that, I would recommend take as much information as you can from Berkeley, but also all the music that Berkeley is stopping you from making, make it outside of Berkeley as well.
Excellent. I like that answer partly because it's consistent with the advice that I have been giving. Not that I have been asked to give advice, but I freely give it sometimes to address this question. By advising students, I did in an interview that I gave about 2 years ago, I think, with a musician, that if you're very, very serious about your musicality, as you are, you put it quite well, as exhausting as it is, because among other things, it requires tremendous discipline. What should prevent you from having what I call two portfolios? A portfolio that focuses on the grades that you must get so that you can have an excellent resume. And as you put it, soak up the information, however disagreeable and useless you might think it is, satisfy the requirements of the course, satisfy the professor, and make the grades. I call that portfolio A. Portfolio B requires tremendous passion for your craft because while you're attending to the demands of the courses that you're taking, whatever spare time you have, and I'm sure not very much at Berkeley because the courses are so overwhelming, but you're so committed to your craft that you should have portfolio B in which you accumulate your own songs that you can return to after you graduate from Berkeley, so that instead of looking at a blank paper, you will have a set of raw materials that is hungering for attention and for being upgraded to the highest level to which you return after you graduate. But in order to do B, you must first do A so that you can use the information that you're getting from A as a application to the original material that you're developing, which will be developed when you're very tired because you've been doing coursework the whole day. But if you're committed to your craft, if you want to be great at it, then it doesn't matter how tired you are. When you go home at night, instead of wasting it on getting stoned, I'm not saying that students do, some don't, watching TV, doing what you should not be doing. If your goal is to be the best that you could be in that craft, and invest about an hour or two to develop the second portfolio and accumulate it for the future, which is consistent in a long-winded way with your answer. I like that answer. And
Yes,
that
I've
I
been,
think is, go
I've
ahead.
been developing both my portfolios, as you would put it, this semester, and it takes a lot of hours to finish the work that I have to do musically for Berkeley, and then still make time for the projects that I'm doing for myself. But I'm putting a band together to play music that I've written, and I'm trying to put as much effort into that as I can because soon, when I'm done with Berkeley, Portfolio B will be all I have to work on. And I don't want to be at the point where Berkeley comes to an end and I haven't started Portfolio B. I think that
That's
would be not a situation that couldn't be dealt with, but a situation that I'm trying to prevent. Yeah.
incredible. I sense it in your case. I know you are modest. I also sense how voraciously you read the material that I'm assigning in Africana philosophy course. You are one of the few students in that class who has actually done the reading.
Mm.
I'm very hyper-conscious. Students may think that I'm not watching what they're doing, who is doing the reading and who is not. I know you are. That is time consuming. In addition to portfolio B, portfolio A, portfolio B, there is another portfolio, namely portfolio C for me. And the paper that you recently wrote for me was the best in that class. No wonder why you look so tired in the classroom, Aiden. You are exhausted
Well, thank you. I mean, I hope I don't look too exhausted in your class.
in a nice way.
And I've not specifically to your class, but I've had colleagues express frustration in going to a music school and having to spend their time doing non-music classes, and sometimes non-music classes at in when you're going to school for music can be frustrating. But I found in philosophy that in your class, the work that I'm doing for it, and in the reading, and also just the amount of time spent thinking about discussions that we have in class, have been influential on my music, greatly influential on my music, and maybe the most important portfolio I have going right now. So thank you for that.
I'm so grateful. And now let's have a test of your music because I'm already committed to bring your band in the spring to our fabulous studio. We have a great studio at Melrose, and I would like you to come and enjoy it. We're looking forward to it. I'll tell you exactly when we set the date when that is going to happen. So, do you mind, at the expense of indulging your kindness, playing a piece for us? Is it possible to play one from your room, do you think? Or am I
Yeah.
asking something ridiculous by musical standards?
You'll have to tell me if it's too loud coming through the mic.
That's fine. I like it. Wow.
That was a ballad I like playing. It's called "The Nearness of You" by Hoagie Carmichael.
Right. I'm not surprised. What I heard, the tone is truly an extension of your character. It
Thank you.
exhibits your calmness. That's what I like about you, the calmness. Because in philosophy, calmness is a necessary and sufficient condition for thinking. It cannot be done through dramatic gesticulations and dramatizations. The philosopher has to be calm, to listen to themselves, and then release thoughts which come out like drops in a faucet that has never been opened before. When I sense a philosopher dramatizing, I become immediately suspicious.
Mm.
So what you just played, for me, I'm being very opinionated. I can't help but be opinionated. Is really an extension of my perception of you, and the calmness um, is truly exemplified in the tone uh, of the music. Now, let's talk about that piece. Why did you choose that piece? I'm sure among many, many other pieces that you could have played, I'm sure there is a reason.
That's a ballad that I've always enjoyed listening to. It's one that I've played quite a bit. I think that it has it kind of sits in a register on the instrument that feels nice to me. Um, it rests on notes that feel kind of natural to sit on to me, and I think that I don't know all the lyrics to the song, but the lyrics I do know, I think that I connect with them. It's about being fulfilled through the nearness, just the nearness of the person that you love. And it's a it's a tune that I've been playing for since before I came to Berkeley. I've liked that tune.
Nice. Now, how many hours do you practice? I might have probably told you this in one of our classes about Coltrane. He was so obsessed, might not be the term, but committed to the sax
Mm.
that he would practice all night long and then fall asleep when he was very, very young. And his mother would come in the morning and take out the horn out
Hmm.
of. Can you imagine how many hours he must have been practicing in order for him to fall asleep finally out of pure exhaustion. That for me is a model of practice.
Mm.
It is refined. Of course, I can't possibly demand that from any Berkeley student because unlike Coltrane, who's not taking courses at a leading college of contemporary music with all kinds of geniuses, but solely practicing that instrument and that instrument only, but also he was reading Einstein. He was interested in physics,
Hmm.
mathematics, and Buddhism also. But perhaps he wasn't burdened by courses. You are. So, on the average, how many hours a day do you spend on the sax?
On average,
On average,
probably 1 hour right now. I think that well, the story of Coltrane, it's a a great one, and I mean, you listen to his playing, and it's not at all surprising. I think I listened to him, and I'm not surprised to hear that he spent all night practicing on the regular. I think that I go through different periods of time of how much I practice, and and in what I do with music. I think that a lot of the time I'm focused on composing, and that's primarily what I'm spending my time doing. Sometimes I'm spending a lot more time on the horn. And right now, with the courses that I'm taking at Berkeley, I think that this period for myself is one of taking in as much information as I can, um, practicing still, but focusing on kind of the knowledge that I can gain from my environment here, and that results in me practicing less at the moment. I think that that certainly will change um, in a different period of time. I think there have been times where I spent uh, all day, every day practicing. I remember that in high school, I was kind of scared by my professors to practice as much as I possibly could over the course of a summer, and spent um, a summer inside practicing for at least like 5 hours a day. I haven't done that. I haven't practiced for 5 hours at a time in years now. I might do that again at some point, but I think that different periods of playing are good for me. And I don't necessarily feel bad about not practicing now as much as I have in the past, because I I'm in taking information now, and I'm gonna spend more time with the horn soon.
Well, our time is fast approaching. We've been going at it for 40 minutes. We have about 10 minutes left,
Yeah.
but we can take more if you like. I have one heavy question and then a light question. Let me begin with the heavy question first. Why are you drawn to philosophy as a musician?
As a musician. Hmm. Well, I think it has philosophy really informs what I want to do with art. I think that what I can't really say what art is in general to everyone, but the goals that I have with art and music, and what I want to do with my music is dictated by things that I learned through studying philosophy. Um, and the way what music means to me is developed greatly through studying philosophy and learning about different philosophers.
Fantastic. Now, are you going to be around this summer by any chance? Are you
I
going
will,
to?
yeah, I will be in Boston.
May I cordially invite you to take aesthetics? That is exactly what you need
Mm,
to take your craft to the next level, the philosophy of art.
I'd
You'll
very
know.
much like to.
So if you can, consider taking that course this summer. You're a philosophy minor anyway, and I would like you to, I'm inviting you to take that course this summer.
Thank you.
Then we'll explore at great length, deeply, the connections between art and philosophy
Mm.
in my aesthetics course. Now, let's end the conversation on a light note, because I also want you to be happy at Berkeley, as your parents do. Are you happy at Berkeley? Is Berkeley a fun place in which to be?
I think I'm happy at Berkeley. I think it took some time to get there. Um, I've found that playing music with people that I call friends to be a great joy, and I've found that at Berkeley, and been able to work on projects that I enjoy, write music that is interesting to me here, and and the A and B portfolios have been enjoyable to me, and made me feel happy over the course of time here. And well, I'm in some ways looking forward to only having the B portfolio, but I'm appreciating the A portfolio as I'm working on it now, and and grateful to be able to learn the things that I have and take your courses. So that's I think that I'm feeding my mind in a way that feels really good. And sometimes it can be a lot of information to take in at once, but I'm very glad that I'm doing it. Yeah.
Well, and I'm enjoying you as a student. In fact, I can't imagine my future courses without you. You're one of the few. There are about 3 or 4 of you who are crucial for the kind of work that I do at Berkeley as models of the seriousness and possibilities for music. And I'm enjoying you enormously. And I'm looking forward to your presentation on Frantz Fanon, I think from whom you're going to groom insights that you can use and have the sax sing them one day. So I'm looking forward to your mastery of that material through that article that I have assigned you to present next week. Well, it has been utter joy, and it will continue to be an utter joy to be a student teacher, your student, and at the same time, your professor. This is Professor Teodros Kiros, Professor of Philosophy at Berklee College of Music, and also Harvard University Summer School. And Excellence with Professor Teodros Kiros is supported by Berklee College of Music, a college I love, and of course, Harvard University, which is also a college that I love. The program is supported by the Hutchins Center at Harvard University. This has been your host, Teodros Kiros, for Excellence. Thank you so much for coming.